in electrical, plumbing, AC installation and repairs, painting and much more. SAS Electrical is here for you, giving you excellent service, great rates, timely completion. Contact SAS Electrical at 709-9215 or 359-1014. Call us today. SAS Electrical. Streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more. GLS 103.5 out of Tobago.
In your face, all over the place. We're online. You're listening to the hottest internet station
in the Caribbean. GLS
103.5
out of Tobago. Buckle up those seatbelts. No drinking and driving. No overtaking on the shoulders. No texting and driving. Your family awaits you at home. Drive to arrive alive. A message from GLS 103.5.
As the nation continues in its fight against the deadly novel coronavirus, COVID-19, GLS 103.5 urges you to continue observing the new normal. Continue social distancing. Wear your face mask. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Avoid assembling. And generally continue to clean and sanitize your environment. We thank everyone for their continued yeoman service. The doctors, nurses, hospital attendants, supermarket attendants, hardware workers, those involved in pharmaceuticals, public service transport workers, sanitation workers. You are to be applauded in the fight against this deadly, novel coronavirus COVID-19. We urge the nation to continue to be safe and take the necessary precautions against COVID-19.
1, 2, 3,
1 love. Ballet man looks up, but he's Rasta too. It's not how you look, but the things you do. Now, just say share your love to your brother man. Treat him kind and stretch out a helping hand. But you claim you're proud, you're kind, you're gentle. I hear you quoting words from the Bible, but now you're jumping on I back, even though I and I black, you turn natty dread. Now you're calling me bald head. Rastaman, I man, have a care. Supposing like me, you just lose your hair. Now, tell me what you gonna do for identity when your dreadlocks growing inside like me. Then we will know who dread and who's faking. Without them locks and flying and shaking. With all that I have said, you would know this I man dread, so don't be misled. Stop calling me bald head. 1 love. Rastaman, ballet man, Jaja say 1 love. With the same skin color from him above. Why this big separation between you and me? How can the hair define an identity? Is Babylon I man dread, I man shave he head. What's inside I man is inside I man too. So you see, I man is no different to you. The same oppression we both receiving is the same burden I and I bearing. I and I dread, I reai. Hail Selassie, I Rasta, dread I. Forehead, Rastaman.
Oh yes, good afternoon to one and all. As we say good afternoon, reaching out worldwide. Good afternoon goes out to Diane Roberts, nice having you inside. Good afternoon also, I'd like to say, goes out to Nicole Pasnell. Good afternoon to Raquel Nore. Good afternoon to Tony King. Good afternoon to all our beautiful viewers. Welcome. As you can see behind, we love to be. Good afternoon to you, Mr. James. And how are you this afternoon, sir? Mr. Anthony James. How are you going, sir?
Very pleasant afternoon to you. It's good to be here.
Of course.
Good to be in studio. Good to be addressing my fellow Tobagonians.
Yes, yes.
You know, we have a common history and a common story.
Behind Tobago.
A common longing. A
Common-
shared experience.
Yes, yes,
Common aspiration. Common ambition.
yes.
You know, we have an ambition to fulfill.
Of course.
An aspiration to fulfill. We have been here
Exactly.
perhaps over 400 years ago or so. As Bob Marley said, we came fighting on arrival,
On arrival, yes.
fighting for survival, fighting for more than survival, fighting to be free,
Yes.
fighting to be unfettered, fighting for what is ours. And if I know the Tobagonian well, the Tobagonian does not fight for what is not his. The Tobagonian is not covetous by culture,
Okay.
not by disposition. The Tobagonian is simply wants what is his or what is hers.
Yes, yes.
We want to take our rightful place in the world. We want to begin to belong to the family of the world, to the communities, the nations of the world. We want to be part of the world. We want to participate and to make our contribution and perhaps play a leadership role in the world.
Yes.
Our illustrious forefather, one of them, Ian Robinson, was a leader in this world.
Very great one.
Yeah, he
too.
was a leader of this world, a strong man, a man of tremendous character.
Yes, yes.
And we all should aspire not to be second-class citizens of a jurisdiction,
Yes, yes.
of a polity, not to be second-class citizens in the world. We were created in the image and likeness of God,
Of course.
and we were given dominion over all things, not over all people. We don't wish to dominate anybody or to strip anybody of their human rights.
Right.
We don't want to go in between them and their God, because there's only one mediator between God and man, and that's the man Christ Jesus. So we don't want to go in between there, but we certainly want what is ours.
What is ours?
Right? And the story of Tobago needs to be redeemed. And that's why we have politics. In fact, the message of Jesus Christ was not a religious message. And people need to understand that, my brother. Christ was never a religion. He was never a religious man, and he never came with a religious doctrine. In fact, if the true doctrine of Jesus Christ should be understood, Christ was in fact the epitome of a politician. He is the ultimate politician, and this is why he came and announced the kingdom of God. Kingdom has nothing to do with religion, my brother. Kingdom has to do with policies that covers everything.
Everything.
You follow what I'm saying? It is all about kingdom, and Tobagonians need to build. We need to build our own kingdom in Tobago, because it's from a kingdom you are blessed.
Right.
If you don't have a kingdom,
You are not.
you cannot be blessed without a kingdom
Exactly.
of your own. And in Tobago, we need the mentality
Of course, I agree with
of
you.
kingdomhood, so to speak.
Just
So in a kingdom, each each person looks out for each other. The kingdom has to look for you wherever you are and to make sure that your circumstances are okay. That's the responsibility of the king in a kingdom, and that's what Tobagonians need to build.
their own
So what are our circumstances? So you have brought me here this afternoon to speak to my fellow Tobagonians, and it is in fact an honor to be here to serve my own people, creating the image and likeness of God. But what are our circumstances? You need, of course.
We just send some shout out. Good afternoon to Victor Trim. Good afternoon to Miss Baron. Good afternoon, hey Jamaica, the Joseph family. Good afternoon to Mr. Antonio Phillips. I'm seeing a lot of you all. Nicole Pasnell, I've seen you, very good. Keep it coming. Don't forget to send your comments, and I've seen a lot of you all sending a lot of love and like. Now, don't forget, every Thursday afternoon from 5:30 to 7, you are going to be in with Mr. James, Anthony James, and where we actually, the topic is all week, we'll do what Tobago.
Well, it's our responsibility. What
Our
is incumbent on Tobago at this point in time? What are the actions that need to be committed in order to achieve the goal? Because there's an outstanding goal, and the outstanding goal in Tobago is freedom, and that freedom could only be obtained within the nationhood of Tobago, the kingdom of Tobago. A kingdom that is not controlled from Trinidad or any other nation. We need to build a nation state,
of course,
under the Most High God, who is the giver of life and everything. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Of course,
in fact, the thought that has entered my mind immediately is that he said to Moses, go and tell Pharaoh to let my people go, so that they may serve me. The point God is making there is that you cannot truly serve him if you're in bondage to another man, woman, or to another nation, any other thing. In fact, slavery or bondage to another nation or to the will of another person, including the devil, that bondage is in fact really idolatry.
Correct.
It's idolatry. You're having an idol instead of God. And right now, Trinidad is an idol. And the political institutions and organizations from Trinidad that are influencing behavior and restricting Tobago, including the government.
Yes.
They are really idols to the Tobagonian. And Tobagonians are having them there. And we really can't serve our God with freedom. So he said to Pharaoh, to Moses, go and tell Pharaoh to let my people go so that they may serve me. And what God intended is that Pharaoh to let them go so that they can become their own nation.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Yes.
They can become their own nation in their own land, which was promised to them, the promised land.
Right.
You feel like, are you with me?
Of course.
Their own land. You can't. And this is why, when they were in captivity, many times you'll hear them say, how can we sing? Because their captors desired of them to sing one of their songs. And they ask the question, how can we sing the Lord's song? Where? In a strange land. You can't serve God in a strange land. What is that strange land, my fellow Tobagonians? That strange land is captivity. That strange land is bondage. So let us examine Tobago and Trinidad, or what is known as Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad had a different history.
Yes.
Come on at the roots from Africa. Because Trinidad is largely built from there.
Yes.
From Africa to Trinidad, we also came. We also, the Tobagonian also came to Tobago and built the cabin and planted the corn, as Bob Marley described it. And I built the cabin and I planted the corn. Didn't my people before me, he explained, built or slave for this country. And now you want to look me with a scorn and eat up all the corn. It's metaphor. Eat up all the wealth, taking all the wealth after we have planted. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We built the cabin and planted the very corn itself.
Yes, yes.
You with me?
Yes, I am with you.
Right. So what is incumbent, as I was saying, what is incumbent here as we examine Trinidad and Tobago? So Tobagonians came to Tobago. So we are united in that sense that our roots are common in Africa, and we're not black people. That's a narrative that is going on that started in America with black and white. All that is ungodly and it is nonsense. And we ought not to call ourselves black because that's a curse in the story. The white means righteousness and godship in the story. I will expand more on that later on because we have to deal with true and complete liberation.
As I see that Mr. Joseph Charles has said, that man with a lot of knowledge, he loved what that man is saying. You can see it on the screen here.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Joseph Charles telling you that comment.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to
appreciate
also
Mr. Joseph Charles.
And good afternoon also to Kellan out there in Trinidad. Good afternoon to our loyal Trinidad supporters. Nice having you all on board. Yes, Mr. James.
Yes.
Again.
So I was saying, so we have Tobago, Trinidadians, Tobagonians. We have the common root because we came from Africa. All right. So we are known as Africans. We're not black people, as I said. We're African people.
African.
That's our root.
Yes.
We're not black people. God never make anybody black and anybody white. There's no white man on the face of the earth.
Okay.
And let us speak the truth.
Yes, I like how you put that over.
Right? Speak the truth with all conviction. So that Tobago went through European colonialism. It all began with that. That's how we came here. Slavery, colonialism, they all wrapped up and mean the same thing in different degrees. So that the Tobagonians have settled here and we built the cabin, we planted the corn, and we are the new natives of Tobago. The native people of Tobago are these Afro-Tobagonians like me and you.
Yeah.
We are the new natives of Tobago, and Tobago is ours.
Of course.
It doesn't belong to anybody else. No part of the world.
Yes.
Tobago belongs to the Tobagonian.
Oh.
By our labor in history, in slavery. We are the natives of Tobago.
Okay.
We are Tobagonians by ancestry, and we are Tobagonians by birth. And there is no other nation that legitimately, no other people that has a claim to Tobago. Now, the life of the Tobagonian is the life of the Tobagonian. The story of the Tobagonian, the experience of the Tobagonian, it is that of the Tobagonian. It isn't that of Trinidad, Barbados, or anybody else's. It is that of Tobago. And the way the rhythm of our story goes should be determinant on us and not anybody else. Anybody else or any other thing that seeks to shape that experience in whatever form or fashion, it is wrong and it is ungodly. And the Tobagonian must be armed with that conviction that anything or anybody else who seeks to interrupt and to determine the rhythm of the story of Tobago except the Tobagonian, it is absolutely wrong. So we know it. So we know that. So I've said we had our history. We came from Africa and we landed here. In the course, the passage of that history, after exchanging hands, European hands, 32 times as it is recorded, as it is said, finally the British overcome, or the English to be more specific, overcome their other European rivals. And in the passage of time, Tobago, the colony Tobago and the colony Trinidad were fused together into one colony. That's how we now have this type of history with Trinidad. And in the continuing passage of time, they had closed the governments down, the colonial government in Tobago. The colonial masters did that. And they made their subjects in Tobago and their subjects in Trinidad united, or fused is a better word. Because united carries a different connotation.
Okay.
Fused because we didn't have a choice in the matter. The Trinidadian didn't have a choice. The Tobagonian didn't have a choice. So we were fused together under one government in Trinidad. That is what the Trinidadian has now inherited. The psychology of the Tobagonian and the Trinidadian were now to receive government from the government in Port of Spain. That is what now we are trying now to unravel. Tobago does not belong to Trinidad. Trinidad does not belong to Tobago. It is those political, historical wrongs, those decisions that are affecting us today, that we have a responsibility to think out, to work out for justice and for peace and for righteousness and for love and harmony on the earth amongst the nations on the earth. Jesus Christ is Prince of Peace. He's love.
Yes.
And he's on our side. He will want to see justice happen. We are still within the colonial context. The world is still there grappling. You look at what is going on in America with the Africans in America who have totally lost their identity and now believe themselves to be black. There is no country named Blacker. There is no continent named Blacker. And what is going on there, the way the struggle is going on in America is absolutely off track. Absolutely. I watch my fellow Africans up there and you see that the ravages of history have distorted them and they have lost their identity. And they know the Euro-American, Anglo-Euro-American who call themselves, who bestowed upon themselves the status of white. Is not color.
Okay.
Euro-Americans, Europeans are pink in color if you want to ascribe a color. They are not white. And we must not be so mentally sick to watch somebody who is pink and call them white and believe it's color you're referring to. It's not color you're referring to. You're referring to a status. And they have exalted themselves as the gods. And they have demoted us as the despised, the wretched of the earth. That's the story that is being unfolded. And you've seen some of our prominent men in this society, Farrakhan, David Mohammed in Trinidad, a lot of the prominent men in government in the States, misunderstanding the narrative and going along with this crazy white and black story. It's all nonsense. And if we continue with that story, we won't succeed. And it has taken on new proportions in Trinidad now with the Afro population and the Indo population in Trinidad, where the Afro population is called, including the Prime Minister listening today, talking about the black man and the black man and black man. I don't want to go there. I want to come back to that. So we are trying to unravel this Tobago situation.
Just permit me one moment. Take that comment below there from Mr. Antonio Philip.
Can you tell us the original name of this island Tobago? I can't really remember that often. There was some name. I don't think it was so long as Tobago. But I can't remember that. Often I can't. And I'm unable to do that. But you can simply type it in on the Google that and you'll get you'll get that.
So Mr. Antonio,
everything is at the fingertip right now. You can Google that and get that.
Yes.
Sorry, but I can't give you the information here offhand. Right? But so through the passage of time, we are where we are now is to understand it. Trinidad does not have a right to run Tobago. Tobago does not have a right to run Trinidad. So we know where we are at this point in time.
Right.
So that you at what is called Trinidad and Tobago independence, which is really more a Trinidad independence. Tobago is only part there by geography, but not by authority. Tobagonians are not the subject in their own sentence. When we went to school, we had how you break down a sentence. We had 8 parts of speech. They have increased it now to more than 8 in the parts of speech in a sentence, and so on. You have the subject, your verb, your predicate, the noun, the object, and on all those things. No, what controls the sentence and dictates the story is the subject.
The subject.
You remember, if you remember that we say, I am going down the road to
Yes.
do so and so.
Subject.
The I or the boy is going down the road. The boy is in charge of the subject.
Okay.
And the reason why he's going down the road is called the predicate. Because the sentence or the purpose, it is premised on that. It's simply that. And if I have a story, if my life is my story, then I ought to be the subject in my own sentence, in my own story.
Right.
And Tobagonians need to be that day. But we need the kind of politicians in office in Tobago who have this type of understanding, this type of passion and conviction to do it. And it can be done. You with me? It can be done. That is what needs to happen. And you're having this, like for instance, elections, general elections coming up,
Yes.
and so on, and people are minded to go to general elections. But I want to say, I want to tell my fellow Tobagonians with all conviction and absolute certainty, Tobago has nothing to gain
From that election.
from the general election. Nothing whatsoever. The future of Tobago lies in the government of Tobago, whether they call it House Assembly or whatever. It is our duty now. It is not the responsibility of Trinidad. So you're having candidates putting for themselves until they're going to Trinidad to represent you. Actually, what are they going to represent? What can they do? They cannot out-argue the rest of Trinidadians down there. And it is not the parliament in Trinidad to shape the government in Tobago. Are you with me?
Yeah.
This needs to be properly understood, my viewers. Properly understood. It is not the jurisdiction, the responsibility, the prerogative, the right of the Trinidad Parliament, of the Trinidadians to shape the constitution, to shape the form of government in Tobago, to shape the story of Tobago. If that were the case, then it is not independence. And it is not our story. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, so far, yes.
It is not. And the most the Parliament in Trinidad will do is to accord a form of government, sub-government, under them that they are currently calling internal self-government. So the word internal is very instructive there. Internal self. That's the most you're going to get. With internal self-government, Trinidad does not have internal self-government. Trinidad still will remain as the sovereign government.
Just
Trinidad will remain with sovereignty. So you don't want that. It is the assembly fellow Tobagonians to do it. And God is going to do a miracle next year. Because really and truly, we are powerless in Tobago. We don't have the strength to do it. We need the power of God. We don't have military power. And we are very divided and not completely there in unity and understanding. God gonna have to do it, and He will do it next year, 2020. You look at all the shakings taking place. It is taking place for a reason. Next year will mark a new dispensation, and we should all be grateful to our Master and serve Him.
Our screen is going so fast this afternoon.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the comments, people coming in. Just take that comments below there from Mr. Antonio Phillips there.
Yeah. Can you say we are ready for independence? Explain the reason for your answer. Independence is a very simple undertaking. Dependence is also a simple undertaking, but fraught with hardship, because you can achieve nothing. Dependence is unhappiness and frustration. You take a person who is sick and dependent on everybody to bring things for you, because you're dependent
On that person.
You're not automated. You can't do anything for yourself. To do anything, you always have to seek permission. The word independence and dependence are really political terms. Independence means that you are the one making the decisions. You are not dependent on anybody to make decisions. We are already talking about decision making.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
No, you call them. I want to ask about the capacity and what type of success we will have. That comes from our relationship with God, first of all. That comes from a belief in ourselves. And as a matter of fact, when you are independent, you have the responsibility comes to you. You have to now work to determine your rate of success. And because you are now free to determine that, the chances of you moving at a certain rate now increases. And I would rather think that we will succeed. But what will now stand in our way to develop ourselves? We will now become a part of the world. We can now go to the United Nations. We can now go to CARICOM. We can be part of the world. We can now play our sport. Sport is a very rich industry.
So true,
You follow what I'm saying?
so true.
Immediately when you're independent, you become a nation state. We can now send our cricketers or footballers or rugby players or volleyballers or basketballers or netballers, lawn tennis players, table tennis players. You name it. Yes. We all now have our national team bringing great pride and joy to Tobago, operating in that freedom. That's the opportunity. We can now take control of our energy resources. One of the things that Trinidad tries desperately to do is to lock away Tobago from the main resource, the main economic resource, and tell you about tourism. Tourism has only been used as a slogan. If you ask the assembly member, any of them, including the chief secretary, the former chief secretary, any of them, how much money did that tourism made in the last year? How much money did tourism yield in the last fiscal year, the year before? They can't tell you. The most they will tell you, we have had 200 arrivals, 200. There is no accountability. It is just something that they're only bombarding the Tobagonian with.
Okay.
Tourism. It's absolutely nonsense, really. It's an aspect that is absolutely misunderstood in Tobago. When they come on the air, you don't have the critical journalists to really cross-examine them and to insist on answer. They don't report. They don't report and they can't report. I didn't work with that here, but I will get that and I'll work with it and I'll read it from it the next time, I promise you, when I'm here. I have it somewhere at home.
All right, good.
There's in 2008, there was a discussion in the Trinidad Parliament concerning the Municipalities Corporation Amendment Bill, where Rennie Dumas from Tobago here was the local government minister in Trinidad. Actually, he is now deceased, and they were discussing how they are going to localize or regionalize, if you would, the local government bodies in Trinidad to empower them and so on. They wanted to have about 14 local government bodies in Trinidad and form a kind of federation. All of that, those ideas came from the fact that I had raised the issue of federation between Tobago and Trinidad, so that you would have a federal system and Tobago is self-governed and so on. I didn't jump off on that, but he didn't want to accord that status to Tobago. He was resistant to that. So when he was talking about that, he was talking about implementing. He's saying that there's a difference between devolution of power and decentralization, as the idea come back. So he was saying devolution is when you devolve or hand down the power, the executive power, to make decisions to the local or the sub-authority, the sub-government. And decentralization is when you decentralize the executive function. The difference is the local government bodies, as Manning had the idea, will carry out government policy. So the PNM, they were saying, is supporting decentralization, but not devolution of power, where you devolve the executive functions. So Kamla Prasad Besesa, it was in 2008, I think it was the 27th, 27th of July in 2008. They were discussing the Municipalities Corporation Amendment Bill, but I'll work with it next week. I'll try to
Before you
get my hand in
move
that.
forward, just take this comment once again by Mr. Antonio Phillips. Good
Yeah.
afternoon to Kelly
How can we
Thomas.
fix our divisions among ourselves in this island, not only the political, the social and otherwise? Well, everything is leadership. It's leadership. We were just listening to Lord Nelson when we were just beginning
Yes,
here.
yes.
If we understand that we are all one family, if we understand that we are stronger united, the rate of success will be greater because we have a common philosophy. Tobago is united really in a sense by culture. I know we have certain petty tribalistic divisions, but in many ways, Tobago is a nation by nature. You know. The Lenhan concept and culture in Tobago, that tells you that that's how we live, especially in what we call the countryside, especially in Tobago East. Right. The Tobago was one for all and all for one. That has been really the history of Tobago. You know.
Okay.
You cast in there, I come out to build your house. Everybody come out long time. We didn't even have a ransom indoors. Everybody come out with shovel and we helping. Then you move to ransom and you hold a whole communal cook and so on, and everybody partake.
Yes.
Or partook of it.
But that's today.
But that's how we function. So I'm saying the culture. There's a culture of unity. Of course, in any society, you have the little bits and pieces of disunity. But the division I was talking about really is a division that came from Trinidad through the colonial, through the politics. Because Trinidad had the power, and then you have now the Trinidad parties involved in the politics.
Tobago.
In fact, you have a government in Tobago and House Assembly that ought to be a Tobago House of Assembly. And right now, you have Trinidad sitting in the House of Assembly. Now ask yourself, so may say, how the hell can you go forward? You have Trinidad sitting. Trinidad has displaced you, replaced you in your own house.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I was talking to a guy the other day. He said the House Assembly was never meant for PNM. It was never built for them. And this is why they can't take it forward.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just being factual here. They can't. Okay. It is not their government. You can't have an institution. You know, we talk international politics. You know, the Americans will make a noise, they say, because Russia got involved in their politics. In the same way, you have a motion move for self-government for Tobago, and you have Trinidad involved in the politics here. It was for Tobago self-government.
Yes.
And actually, PNM have no right to be contesting the elections of Tobago.
For Tobago.
And we're not free because they ought not. The law ought to prevent them. The law of justice ought to prevent them from contesting election here. Whether they want to use Tobagonians to do it, it doesn't matter. You look at all the debacle being going on in the house there, and you see that the decisions been coming from Trinidad, even if a Tobagonian had it down there.
So true.
The facts are the matter.
Wow.
And it's only how we understand it. So the guy was talking about the division. So the division really come from Trinidad.
Yes.
Not only, I won't go into much detail because not many people really understand this. It is not only the PNM that are involved in the politics in Tobago. The UNC are also involved. And it is in their interest. But it's not in our interest. But it is in their interest. Because they are fighting their own battle. I won't go on too much on that. But that is a fact. And I've heard it said from right here.
Yes,
and I can tell you, it is a fact.
It is a fact.
And ever since A.N.I. Robinson and Murray and Otto Charles and all these great stalwarts would have departed from the DAC, NAR and so on. Ever since that contingent, what emerged as leaders after, they don't really have the capacity and the capability. Okay. So it is easy. You know, what they've been doing, they've been following leadership from Trinidad. And Trinidad is recruiting people in Tobago.
To do their work for them.
Right? So that Tobago is divided in that sense. But having gotten or going to independence, we have to get people here now who understand and whose sole intention is to lead a prosperous nation state here in Tobago, whose nights and days are spent meditating, dreaming, focusing, and thinking, resting upon this issue. This has nothing to do with Trinidad. It's not theirs. If I go there, from the time I go there, Tobago starts to function independently. They're taking no instructions. Taking instructions and following the Trinidad Constitution is illegitimate and illegal in the kingdom of God. And it is the kingdom of God that we must serve and be loyal to. That needs to be properly understood. The constitutional arrangements in the Trinidad and Tobago Constitution, the governmental arrangements are illegal. They are unconstitutional. I want people to understand that.
Yes, yeah.
The setting up the government of Trinidad and Tobago is unconstitutional because it says who wins Trinidad controls Tobago.
Tobago. And so far, this is what we say.
You know what I'm saying?
So
I'm saying that law or provision or allowance is unconstitutional and it is illegal in the kingdom of God.
So
and they can't win you, they can't defeat you.
So with Watson saying that he had the trump card in his hand and whoever party win, he's going to give his vote to them. What do you think about that point?
As I said, the general election here, Tobago's parliament, if you read my Facebook post, I've been posting.
Yes,
Tobago's parliamentary role is over.
So true.
Self-government has been passed since 1977.
For Tobago?
Yeah. The institution came in 1980, November. 1980. Those that populate the Tobago House of Assembly are the ones to lead Tobago to independence. Tobago's independence is not led by the Trinidad Parliament. It cannot be. If it is, it is not independent. You look at the bill that go on before the House, now it was all wrought in Tobago.
So true.
The representatives had nothing to do with that. It is the Assembly. Let me show you something. The biggest fight really was to get back and the institution in Tobago for government because that was closed down while we were under the Anglo colonial masters. That was closed down. Right? Let us look at the history of those nations, right, in our neighborhood who have moved from dependence to independence.
Just hold your last word there, Mr. Jill. Good afternoon to Mr. Wayne Clark from Brooklyn, New York. Saying good afternoon,
Wayne Clark, Zaba. Is that Zaba? Is that Zaba there? Talk to me, Zaba.
Just take the comments from Mr. Antonio Phillips. Can we
identify such persons and can they take the forefront? Well, I'm certainly one of those. One of those persons. And I mean, once I'm there with the Spirit of God, I take no instruction from Trinidad. I provide leadership. Not leadership in Tobago, but leadership in Tobago and Trinidad and the world. No, that's it. Leadership in Tobago and Trinidad and the world. You look at us, Trinidad is in total shambles. And when you see since Robinson has left down there, they are struggling for a leader. You can't really look at the presidency as anything to really look up to. Look at how they mess up the interpretation of the Constitution. Just to sway in the chief secretary. None of them knew who was supposed to, by the Constitution, to sway in the chief secretary. Imagine that. There's no leadership. You look at the beginning of, I'm not criticizing, these are the facts.
Yes.
You look at the beginning of Dr. Rowley's term in office with Carmona and himself. And both of them did not know that the Prime Minister must be sworn in first and then the Attorney General. If you remember that, my fellow Tobagonians. So you see that there's a really a descendancy, a drop. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Far from the mark has really taken place and it continues to drop. And what is happening too is that you're having people vying for office, not really vying for office to serve, not because they really have a passion
to serve
that they really want to fulfill for their people, for their nation. No, they want the rank of office. I'm the Prime Minister. I'm the Chief Secretary. I'm a government minister. And of course, to fill their pockets. We know that. The governments in Trinidad and Tobago have built corruption. They have corrupted the nation completely. They are friends with all kinds of thugs and I mean, all kind of underworld people. The governments, the guns, the drugs have been permitted, and I say it without fear. The guns and the drugs that come in into Trinidad and Tobago are permitted by the powers of Trinidad and Tobago. They are the ones. They are responsible for the riots that are taking place. They are responsible for the ghettos. They would not lead the African people pants down by the bottom. So you look at their faces, something is wrong. And you're having governments in, out, every 5 years, come give me a vote. There's no transformation in our people. There's no transformation. They didn't go there to do that, and it's simple. There are communities that you have to break up. Simple as that. There are communities that you have to decentralize. You have to break it up.
Yes, so true.
And rebuild. And have your social networks going on with education. The education system needs to be changed completely. People need to be educated where their talents are. God gives to every man on earth here the capacity to live. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness, not the poverty. The fullness. The earth has the resources, and every country on the earth has the resources to sustain itself. Otherwise, God fail. We need to understand that. It is having when the scripture says, when the righteous reign, the people rejoice. You follow what I'm saying? Yes. When the righteous reign, the people rejoice. Righteousness, he says, lifts up, exalts a nation. But sin, corruption, selfishness is a reproach. We can do this because we are traditionally one people here in Tobago. Tobago is the only natural nation you will see in the Caribbean. At harvest time here, the man from Boko can go to Charlaville and go to another Tobagoan house and eat and enjoy himself. Without, you feel what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why? It's because we are one family. We are one nation. It's just that we have not recognized it, and it is not yet formalized. You can leave Bellegarde and go to Plymouth and go into a house, and you are welcome. You will get 2 beers to leave with. And you're going to get a box of food to go with.
Yes.
Only Tobago you can do that.
Let me just take run some comments there. From Diane. Diane Roberts is saying, preach Mr. James. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Everybody is just keep going. Actually, you are actually hearing the facts right here. Not more than the facts, ladies and gentlemen. You can actually keep sending your comments. Don't forget you can call in as well. Our number is up on the screen, 471-4244. Or if you're calling from outside, 1868. Good afternoon also to Kimberly Duncan. Good afternoon to you and to your loved one. And good afternoon to Jamaica. Seeing Jamaica is here inside with us. Really good afternoon. Nice having you guys inside. Yes, Mr. James, back to you.
Yes, I'm saying only Tobago you can do that.
Only Tobago.
We are a nation. You know what I mean? But it needs the right. It really needs the right leadership.
Yes.
Tobago has a lot of plus. I'm saying.
Yes.
Even with our housing, the way we our housing culture in Tobago and so on, a lot of work. I mean, I have personally have done it. I have friends that I'm an electrician.
Yes.
And I have wired the house free of charge. If I have materials, I use my material.
Of course.
Because we good that how we live.
Of course.
Man shall not live by bread alone.
So true.
If you understand me, that's how we rock it.
Correct.
That's our culture. And there is no scene.
Exactly.
If you understand me, we have that here. The point I'm making about that, because the was Antonio
Antonio Phillips. Yeah.
I was asking about the unity in Tobago, that nationhood. Right. You know what we have to really propel us forward. Right. Now, the richest country, and you would have heard the Honorable Hotel Charles said it here. The richest country
in the Caribbean
is Tobago.
Yes,
and historically, it has been the most beautiful and fought after. But in terms of our energy resources and our waters, we are the richest. Yes. In fact, there has been no new, I don't think there's any new, since Dr. Rowley came into power, there's been no new discovery in Trinidad. You know. When they came into office, 3 months after they came into office in 2015, 3 months after, was just somewhere around January day, they announced that was BP was looking for oil. Oil, not gas this time, oil.
Oil, alright.
They said north of Tobago.
North of Tobago.
Yeah.
That they found it.
Let me see, I want to get that right. I think, yeah, north of Tobago.
Yeah.
When they found it 3 months later, they say they found it, the language changed. And I want people to pay attention to the Ministry of Energy in Trinidad. It is a propaganda organization, if we may call it that. And they coin language in order to fool and hide information from the people of Tobago. So when they found the oil, they say they found it. The language moved from North Tobago to North Trinidad and
yes.
Tobago. Yeah.
I remember that.
You
I
remember
remember that.
They
yes.
say they found it. No longer North. They looked for it in North Tobago and found it North Trinidad and Tobago. Within about 2 years ago or so, Dr. Rowley went to Barbados, if you remember that. Went to Barbados to talk with the Barbadian Prime Minister concerning gas between, gas in Tobago waters.
Yes.
That bong with Barbados. You remember that?
Yes.
And people were saying he didn't carry the chief secretary. There is no report on these things. And you have to ask the question, who is Dr. Rowley working for? Who is certainly not working for Tobagonians, and he's not working for the Africans in Trinidad either. If you go back,
Yes.
and you will see that the government in Trinidad has totally failed the Africans. Totally. There is no transformation, and they are afraid. They are afraid of the Indians. Because the Indians are more independent in culture, more qualified in everything. And they are afraid. All they want, they just want to have PNM in power, and PNM at the same time is not, or are not representing them. But we have a life to live, and the youths have a future. Right? And I was saying earlier on, so, but the point I'm making here, I come here this evening to announce that the general election is futile to Tobago.
Futile to Tobago.
Regardless of who wins in Trinidad, Tobago has an inalienable right to govern itself. And that leadership to lead Tobago to independence, where we must not be referring to the government in Tobago as the Tobago Assembly. The government in Tobago should be referred to as the government of Tobago.
Tobago.
That's what we want here. The government in Tobago has to be led to that independence where you have your prime minister or your president. And having a president is not too much for us. Dance clubs has presidents. 4-H club, president. All kind of little groups have presidents. So don't be tied up with the word and believe that this is too much to you. That because of miseducation.
Yes, yes.
So we need to have our own head of state and head of government in Tobago. Not to abuse, but to serve. Servant leadership. Looking after the welfare of all Tobagonians.
Yes.
Government here must be referred to as government of Tobago. And I'm saying, the point I really want to drive home, it is to be done from the House Assembly. Trinidad, all that stupid talk about special majority, 2/3, 3/4, 3/5. That's total nonsense down there. Because, and let me tell you something, you're not going to get any special majority on one side of the House in Trinidad for a long time.
So true that.
You're not going to get that. So you won't tell me they don't have that. So they have to vote on my freedom? They're for real, really? Trinidadians, so Lavantil and Port of Spain and Sealots and John and Mova and Sawa and Pinal and Shogunas must decide if I'm free in Tobago. So they come from Africa and settle in Trinidad. They come from India, settle in Trinidad. And they must now determine whether or not the Tobagoan is free. They hadn't screwed on properly.
Is that the reason that Trinidadian does always have terms of saying that Tobagonian do not like them? Which is something I always hearing.
Well, what is it total? Is it miseducation? Is it total lack of understanding of the political circumstances, of the history of who we are, of where we are? They understand that. So when you talk for your right, they figure now through the whole brainwashing that you are now against them. But if the evidence, Tobago is not in a position where they say we don't like them. That is not really true. The evidence will suggest, if there is any dislike or so, justifiable. Is it that they are the ones who are making the policies against us? They are the ones with the power. I am looking back at some old cricket and thing on YouTube and thing, and I can tell you fairly today, the standard of cricket in Tobago was higher than the rest of the West Indies, including Barbados. I really mean that. I've been watching back some old cricket. And I remember in my days in the 70s, early 80s, playing cricket, the sort of technique and balance at the wicket and so on that we had, the fast bowling and so on that we had in Tobago. I looking back, some of the cricket, it's shameful, really. And you know, we listen to these commentators because we didn't have color TV yet and so on. You couldn't really see the cricket properly and so on. And you hear them describing these great shots and all of that, and you wonder what's really going on, really. Because I remember in the cricket here was totally different. I mean, it was above the level of the rest of the Caribbean. There are no two ways for that. But we have nothing to show. Why? Because we didn't have a nation. Who we playing for? The Trinidadian will not allow you to play for them because sport is business. And they are not going to allow you to get that business opportunity in front of them. So, in fact, they have been saying all along, Tobago go and form our own nation, boy. And this is what we are going to do now. To form our own nation, we will still maintain a relationship with Trinidad. You follow what I'm saying? Yes, we will have our government. That's the vision of APT James. We will have our government, our state. They will have theirs. In fact, there's an excellent model in the Caribbean right now in the OECS countries that we have not paid attention to. In the OECS countries that consist of Grenada and Carriacou and St. Vincent and Dominica and St. Lucia, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis and all of them. They are all independent nations, independent states. Exactly, yeah. They don't have any central government. They don't have any government of the OECS. They all have their own independent governments. But they have freedom of movement for all the citizens. Exactly. Freedom of movement throughout. And you can have that here. You could have, Tobago has its own state, Trinidad his own state, but you have by treaty, by understanding, by harmony, by goodness, you have freedom of movement between. In the EU, you have freedom of movement between the European countries in the European Union. So my proposition is that the Tobago and Trinidad enter into a particular political arrangement that is called the United Islands in the West Indies. The UIWI. Let me repeat it again. The UIWI, United Islands in the West Indies. So Tobago is free to fulfill its own imperatives, its own potential. You know what I'm saying? I don't want no equity with Trinidad, and I don't want no equality with Trinidad. I want to be free to fulfill my own potential. I want to be free to serve my God. Are you me? Yes. Unfettered from anybody else. They are free to sort out their own circumstances. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And we can enter, the two states enter mutually into agreements that are symbiotic and beneficial to each without me impeding on them and they impeding us. We must have the Tobago national team. Our cricketers must be able to flourish and put on Tobagonian national colors. You know what I'm saying? We must be able to take, and I'll tell people something. You must get the and it's available, and the House Assembly ought to have it. They ought to have that. But they don't talk those things. Back in 2008 when Petro Canada was down here, I don't even remember that. They closed down, they stopped the fishermen from fishing in Tobago. Yeah. I was around hot in the politics. Yeah. They look for gas in a big area called Block 22. It is located from the edge of Plymouth, going right up back to Charleville up there. Are you hearing me? Yeah. But the amount of waters there, the waters are 12 times bigger than the landmass of Tobago. It is called Block 22. And right now, they are reaping gas from it. Wow. Petro Canada has been succeeded by Centrica, another Canadian company. And they are there as we speak, and they are drilling gas. In fact, the cove where the Tiantek power station is there is being fed from a gas field just outside Lowlands there. Wow. I'm an electrical inspector. I inspected down there. And I know they said bring the gas line just from out the fields there. We just operating in darkness there. The House Assembly is not reporting to us because the House Assembly is constituted of Trinidad and working with a Trinidad agenda. So they're not reporting to us. You follow me? We don't need to be getting any budget from a Trinidad control. And our money is not coming from Trinidad. Let me make that abundantly clear. Our money is not coming from Trinidad. Our money is coming from the resources that God put in Tobago. Trinidad is in charge of it.
Okay.
That is what is going on.
That
That is what is going on. So I don't figure were we getting money from them. They are getting money from us.
Okay.
And we must be free to make our own investments to gain more.
I heard that word from Mr. Charles, so
For what I'm saying?
yes.
No, I'm from Belgarden.
Okay.
And there's a hill called Toko Hill.
Toko Hill.
When you go up there, you can see Toko.
Okay.
That's deep up in Zion Hill. You go up to the top up there, and you can look back on the sea coast of Tobago coming up there.
Okay.
And if you see oil rigs lining the shores, where I live them in Zion Hill in Belgarden, I go up on my house top. And if you see the rigs on them, you must go up the fort right there. Just up the fort there. You see the amount of oil rigs going up the side there. So Tobago is surrounded and bathing in a sea of gas and oils. Bob Marley said some time ago in one of his songs, in the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Rat race. In the rat race that they have built.
Yes.
In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty.
Just permit me one moment.
Sure.
Good afternoon to Vince. Also, good afternoon to Cornwall George, saying good afternoon to the GLS
Yeah,
crew. A comment that was it passed already up on the screen. It's the question towards the airport doing and with the people that they're looking to move. That was from Samantha Christo. Asking the question about what do you think, or what you think what the government is doing, is that what the government is doing, is that relevant to remove people from the God-given land,
Yes.
to put them in a swamp area?
Absolutely
Samantha,
wrong.
I don't know.
But I could answer that. Very, very quickly.
Yes.
It is absolutely wrong. And what is going on down there is really the continuation of the Sandals project. That was part of the Sandals project. And what governments do, the most money that can be siphoned, money can be made where governments make them money. I'm talking about government interests. Government officials and government interests, they make the money from the construction industry. So they always want to go into construction. You hear the Roxborough, is it the hospital?
Yeah, the hospital.
Move from 50 million or 55 million to 80 million. That could make, you estimate a project
exactly
to cost 50. And if it have an over expenditure or overrun or whatever, it can cost 51. It can cost, if it's 50, it can cost 50.2.
Yeah.
50 and 1,000.
It went way
50 and 3,000. If you ask
Yes,
50 million and 3,000.
Yes, it went way
It can
over.
cost 50 and 1 million. You know how much is a whole $1 million? 50 and 2 million.
Yeah,
50
boy.
and 3 million.
Wow.
He moved from 50 to 80.
80. That's a big span.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a very big span.
That makes sense? It gone up about 50%. Who did the estimate?
Who did?
Who did the estimate? And they can do that. They can do that and get away because the population is not where in terms of its consciousness and so on. And they had the supporters who will try to lick you down if you talk about it. That's why we operate. The supporters, you come and you talk the truth in their own interest, and the supporters will try to lick you down because you tell them you tell them the truth.
Yes.
No, a responsible government would have done. You want to go ahead with the airport. And mind you, let me quickly point out, and I have the THA Act here with me.
Okay.
Right? And it is not the duty of the colonial government in Trinidad to build the airport. Not by law.
Okay.
By law, it says here from the 5th schedule, in line 16, infrastructure and responsibility of the Tobago government. Let's call it government. The responsibility, forget the House Assembly.
Yeah,
the government of Tobago.
Yes.
It says in line 16 here of the 5th schedule, responsibilities that Tobago, the government and people of Tobago have. Infrastructure, including air and sea transportation. Listen, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So even to purchase boats and all those responsibilities belong to the government of Tobago. Air and sea transportation, wharves and airports. Are you with me there? You just said that? It's there. And airports and public utilities. Today as we speak, this has been done since in 1996.
Wow.
This act came in this law came into being in 1996. And all the governments have been breaking the law. The public utilities in Tobago today are under the colonial government. And I want to wipe it out from our minds because that's not a central government. It's not our central government. Where there is colonialism, the government is not central. The government of Trinidad has colonized the people of Tobago. It is not a central government. If it's central, then we all have equal leverage and access to it. Are you with me?
Yes.
It is a colonial government, and we must wipe that language out of our mouth. Because you see, language is the only tool of creation God used.
Yes.
God spoke, and the world came into being. The universe came into being. It is only by language, by word, already scripture says, in the beginning was the word. The word was with God, and the word was God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. It is only word that makes. And if we speak the wrong language, we will make the wrong things. Because every time you speak, you create. Language is what you use. Word, ideas, image, whatever. They are all word. We live in a word universe. And we have to speak the things that we want to create. Speak the thing because it's only your words and your language that create.
Yes.
You with me?
Yeah, of course.
So going back now to the airport, all these responsibilities and them out there, under here, the governments have been breaking the law. Why? Because they don't want Tobago to be free, and the consciousness has not been there. I'm putting it euphemistically, mildly, so to speak. Right? But the consciousness has not been there in the House Assembly. You follow what I'm saying? The consciousness, the fight, the righteous indignation has not been there. There's nothing wrong with being indignant.
Yes.
If you understand what I mean,
Of course.
there is nothing wrong with being angry. The Bible says be angry and sin not. You know, so you can be angry. You can have a righteous anger, a righteous indignation because you need anger to do things. You know.
Of course.
I'm telling you, if you operate without anger, you can't get things done.
Can't get
No, you need anger to get things done. So you move with a certain kind of emotion to get the job done.
Just permit me
So
one
that to move the people from down there without first providing the suitable, merited alternative was absolutely wrong. And if you're saying the project is to suit me, why are you running me?
Why are you running me?
You're saying this project is for me. What's the haste really? The election is coming up.
Of course.
From the time they start the project, they can start to siphon money.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So the undue haste, and I want to congratulate the peace people. I thought they have been brilliant. And I really love the way they have put God ahead and in front of their struggle. Because their struggle is not theirs, it's our struggle. Because I'll tell you something. There's a concept, a mentality around the world to dispossess Africans of their lands.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Of course.
There is a concept, a move around the world, a philosophy to dispossess Africans from their land. And at no cost, those people down there should give it up. You want the land to do your wicked deed?
Yeah, exactly.
Compensate.
And
You can't just come and take my land.
Yeah,
And I really want to
compensate.
applaud the efforts. And that's all of Tobago. Yeah, all of Tobago ought to be with them and behind them. It is time for us to rise in consciousness. All that is going on in America there. The term Black Lives is wrong. That's a wrong term. We don't know black. Africa. And they are no white lives. They are Europeans.
Okay.
Call them by their roots.
Europe.
When you call them white, you really exalting them as God. Because that's why the story was invented.
Yes, yeah.
They have exalted themselves and as I said, they have demoted us. We need to understand that. So answering the question concerning the airport, no, what they have done down there is wrong. Their minds are wrong. And I'm saying he's not representing us. The government are representing their own ideas, their own interests. And that is why that explains the undue haste to rush these people. And it means therefore that they view us in a particular way. It means that they don't have any respect for us. And as I said now, when they go on the interviews, the head of government and the other ministers and so on, they can go around moderators, journalists and so on, who don't really have the capacity to engage them and to really expose them before the populace. You know what I'm saying? So that's in answering the question there. If you're going to move people, you first of all must provide the suitable alternative. Everybody should move in and occupy the suitable alternative before you can do anything.
So
It's simple.
So true that.
That's the dignified way. The dignified way to do it.
To do it, all right.
They can't fool me. And one thing I can say, God has given me
Yes,
an excellent mind.
Of course. Of
One
course.
thing I know, that God has given me a gift of a strong mind.
Yes, yes.
Excellent mind.
Mr. Charles, we would like to say good afternoon to you.
Pleasant afternoon.
Mr. Hojo Charles.
Pleasant
Good
afternoon, the Doctor, the Honorable Hojo
I
Charles.
also like to say good afternoon goes out to Ansel Dennis, who is watching in.
Yeah.
And also good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the Honorable Chief Secretary of Tobago.
Tobago.
And I want to tell my brother, fellow Tobagonian, and we are not enemies here.
No.
We may have, and I'm not sure that we have different political views. I'm not sure that we don't, because Tobago ought to have one political view in favor of Tobago and going forward. No rulership, no leadership from Trinidad. We take leadership from counsel from God and the counsel of ourselves. The Tobago and the story of Tobago are the story and the property of Tobago. And I might say to you on air here, you are not the Chief Secretary of the House Assembly. All those are wrong terms and we need to cut that out. You are the Chief Secretary of Tobago. Not the Chief Secretary of the House Assembly. That's a narrative that's been coming from Trinidad and all the ignorance and so on and rubbing on that. And cheapening the office and cheapening the politics in Tobago.
Of course.
He's Chief Secretary of Tobago. And all of that confused the swearing in, you know.
Yeah, it's already in
Yeah, because in their mind, it is the Chief Secretary of the House Assembly. Well, therefore, the presiding officer is the presiding officer of the Assembly.
Yes.
Therefore, the presiding officer can do it. If the narrative was Chief Secretary of Tobago,
Yes.
then she might have understood, and the president too would have understood. Yeah, it's only the president can really can do this.
Okay.
You with me?
I'm also seeing Tracy looking in as well. Good afternoon to you, Tracy.
Yeah, good
Davison,
afternoon.
Good afternoon to each and every one of you all.
politically.
Nice
But
having you all.
next year marks a new beginning in Tobago. Next year, after the debacle of 2020, if you understand how God does things. 2020 is 2 by 20 is 40 after 40 years.
Yes.
It's time. And it's something that we must all crave in Tobago.
Of course.
For all. How long are we going to continue in this? And continue with the mindset that is Trinidad? It's not going to get nowhere. Trinidad cannot give Tobago independence. Because most Trinidad is going to do, and they're going to play games with it. And I want to tell you something. Even the bill that is before Trinidad, all this thing about special majority and we don't have it. First thing Dr. Roy will tell you, because he had not in it.
Okay.
There was a factor bill that they needed special majority. They got it.
Right.
Right? They got it. There was the bail and ammunition bill. They got it. There was another bill. It doesn't come to mind now. They got it. You require special majority.
And all that
And
bill
they,
was
yeah,
this
they
year?
passed them.
Okay.
They passed them. So it's not about that.
All right.
And who is to stop Tobago? Who? He has not lived it. There's no passion for it. There's no passion for Tobago to be free, for Tobago and for empowered. And it is, and as a matter of fact, the act has not been implemented. It's right here. The act has not, and not a single law was made in the House Assembly.
Okay.
There's a part where the House Assembly can make laws. And that is one of the ways you can challenge the system, by making assembly laws.
Oh,
Make it here, discuss it here, win the support of the people of Tobago, make it. All right, they say you have to send it down to cabinet, down there in Trinidad, to the parliament and so on. Do it. Discuss it here.
Right.
Make it big and bold in Tobago here. Let them, for our own business here, over our own affairs, let them say no to it now.
Yes, yes.
They'll be jeopardizing themselves. You feel what I'm saying?
Of course.
So their heart is not in that. And I am not really too disturbed about that, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because I know independence
That is
has to come. The Declaration of Independence must be done.
To Tobago.
So what should be happening is that the government of Tobago, not the House Assembly, let's deal it right. The government of Tobago should be building a constitution, not an act, not no bill. The government of Tobago should build a constitution for Tobago, because to be independent, you have to have a constitution.
Okay.
That is what's supposed to be happening. You build a constitution. And Tobago must fulfill
that
its
constitution.
potential. And I want to make it abundantly clear. Trinidad intervention and involvement and restriction and the impeding of the potential, the interference in the affairs by speech, by institution, is illegal. And it is unconstitutional. In fact, there is only one clause in the constitution that is constitutional. When it begins by saying Trinidad and Tobago shall be a sovereign democratic state. Every other clause after is illegal.
Wow.
You with me? Every other clause after that is illegal and unbinding. You have to have the mind.
Yes, of course.
You know what I mean? The courier,
Yes.
the personality, the embodiment, in order to carry it.
Yes, yes.
To explain these things and to stand boldly and to defeat any agent, any obstacle. You have to have that in order.
To defeat them.
Yeah.
Of course.
You know what I mean? You have to be filled with it.
Of course, of course. Cannot be
You have to be
easily
constituted
Yeah, cannot be easily removed.
in order to do it. And you just go about and you just do what you have to do.
Of course.
You go about it. What do the children of Israel did? They go around the walls of Jericho. They went wrong once. You have to just do what you have to do.
Exactly.
They go around it twice. They go around it 3 times, or so many times, 7 times. And then the last one, a great shout. The walls of Jericho
Yes.
came down.
Exactly.
The walls of the wicked, then Washington said. The walls of the wicked will come down, you know, when you shout out the name of the king. He said, yes, we're going to chant them down.
Yeah.
We're going to burn wickedness to the ground. Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Rasta come to chant down Babylon.
Good afternoon to Shelly and
Must
Pasnell.
chant down.
Good afternoon
Babylon.
once again. Trinidad is in the house.
But-
Nice having you guys
But
inside.
let me just
Correct,
deal
yeah.
with this this white and black narrative, because it's very current and I should really deal.
Yes, yes.
Deal with
That's
it.
a good, good.
It is absolute nonsense. There are no black people on the face of the earth. I'm looking at you. You're a brown skin man.
Of course.
How can I call you black?
Exactly.
And God never named people by color.
Yo.
God make one people, not even a race. I hear people. I never saw the word race in the Bible.
So
I'm a Bible believer.
Exactly.
Right? I believe the Bible is the word of God. I've never seen race. God make human. He made mankind, all people. God is rich in diversity. It's a very boring thing to make people of one manifestation, one human expression. That's a very boring. And I'm God.
Yeah.
God could diverse. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So he make all kind of different ethnicities. That's the doing of God.
Exactly.
All sorts of different ethnicities, but he never named anybody by culture.
By culture.
And I'm challenging people to go. Research is the easiest thing to do right now. You just have to be skillful when you do it,
Yes.
so that you don't misinterpret things and so on, right? Because you have all kind of people there who write and stuff.
Yes, yes.
But go, It was invented in the United States in the 17th century, where they call themselves, they bestowed upon themselves the status, the title of white. But white, they're not white.
But they call themselves white.
Yes, they bestowed upon themselves. They look in the Bible and they say, well, though your sins be as scarlet, shall be white as snow. All right, they say, well, all right,
Okay.
we are white. They saw in Revelation there where the church being righteous and so on, and they have on garments of white.
Yeah.
They took to themselves, they arrogated to themselves
Okay.
the title. White.
Right.
But we ain't get that. It's not color.
Yes.
It is really status.
Knowledge, man. Knowledge.
You follow what I'm saying? So they accorded that to themselves. And then they developed a narrative around it. They call Africans black. When the story began there in the States in the 17th century, they said that Africans are dark brown in color, but they're going to call them black. And they developed the narrative of Black Friday,
Okay.
blacklist, blackmail, black sheep, and all kinds of things, all negative. And they got me today now, unsuspectingly, repeating those things. When we repeat those things, the Bible says death and life is in the power of the tongue.
Of course.
So when we do that, what we are really doing is to carry out their mandate and the story that and intent that they had. And we are cursing ourselves. And what I observe now is that even like within Trinidad, and around the world, the other in-between ethnicities like the Chinese, or that those Oriental people, Indians, Chinese and them, they now want to be the new whites. To look down on us and call us black, and it is going on. Interestingly, I looking at the television this morning on CNC3.
Right.
The presenter there, an Indian presenter, and he's referring to the Africans in Trinidad as black. I turned from CNC3 to TV6 Fazil Mohammed. He called them black. I moved now to Channel 5, Brother B, and he called the Africans black too.
Oh my.
It's just amazing.
Yes.
It's just amazing how can we be, with all that is going on in the world, thinking all the awakening and the consciousness, to not realize that story is not a God story. It's not a natural story.
So
It's a made-up, manufactured story for a certain outcome.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves just playing the role. I'm not a black man. God never made that. There's the scripture in the Songs of Solomon. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1. Somewhere around verse 4 to verse 5 there.
Right.
Where the speaker said, I am black, but comely, not black and comely, but that was not referring to an ethnicity, a group of people. The person was not referring to that. And I don't think the person was referring to the color black either when you read the story. The person said, I am black. Solomon is writing. But Solomon was such a rich man. And Solomon pursued no woman. Women pursued Solomon.
Yes.
Solomon was too absolutely rich, absolutely handsome. You feel what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right? Wise to the nth degree. So he was not pursuing anybody. The women were pursuing Solomon.
Right.
So she said, go and read it. He said, let him kiss me with his lips. So it's not any gay thing going on there.
Yes.
It's a female talking. And she said, I am black, but come there. And she explained that my mother's children were angry with me. And they kept her out in the vineyard, attending to the vineyard, the family vineyard. And the son, she said, burned her. So she said she's black. So she was describing the damage that the son did. But she said, nevertheless. So she used the term, the conjunction. But, comely. Comely.
Yes.
So we ought not to misread.
Exactly.
We ought not to misread that.
Of course.
So we need to jump out from that story. When you look at CNN, BBC, or all those stations, you keep hearing the narrative, black, white, black, white. They use the media and the movie industry, and they were able from right there in America to enslave and to shape the minds of the rest of the world. And they have Africans now, even in Africa, calling themselves black.
Black. Just permit me one moment. Good afternoon to Deborah Patrick. Also, good afternoon to Kathy and Kwashi. Good afternoon to Mr. Davis. And also to the Armstrong family. Mr. James, just take that comment. We are close up to news time.
Yeah.
Just take that comment on the screen there from Mr. Antonio once again.
Thank you for your time. Education is much needed for Tobago people. You and others striving to help Tobago to improve should meet and deliberate on some necessary steps for the near future. Point taken.
Point well taken, Mr. Antonio.
What time you have there?
It's 6:54.
6:54.
We are right here.
Right.
Don't forget, viewers, every Thursday, please look out. It's only if we have any technicality, right? You will be informed, but thank you all. We thank you all. We still have some time still. So, Mr. James, is still your...
Yeah. So that you hear it there. They use the new America, the strongest nation on the earth, where propaganda is concerned. Right? They control the television network and so on.
Yes.
Right? Movie industry and also this thing. And they use imagery, including language as symbol, language as image, and project that narrative, that whole order. And they've been able to shape that across the world. But we who are looking in must be mindful of the truth.
Exactly.
And so you constantly hear the black, white, black, white, black, white. They keep jamming it into your heads. And people now react because of the information in them. You could convince a man, if you tell him the room is blue and you keep telling him it's green, he will actually call it green.
Green,
So we
yes.
keep saying that Europeans who are pink in color, and we keep saying they're white. Africans are dark brown, we keep saying they're black, because that's what we've been jammed into our head.
Yes.
One of the things we must try and avoid is using Africa and black as synonyms.
So true.
So, because whatever is going on, you listen that the media outside. One part of the paragraph or sentence they will say Africa or Afro-American or African. And then the next part, in the same context, black. What that story is telling you is that Africans are black. Remember, my people, it is not color.
Exactly.
It is status. They are calling you the wretched of the earth. And even you want to say Black Lives Matter, it would not work.
It's so true.
Because you are cursing yourself.
Yes. I like how you put it over.
Right?
Really
You're
like
cursing
it.
yourselves. And the leadership in this cannot come from the Africans. The leadership of the African world cannot come from America. Because America is the epicenter of the evil. Those people up there, they are too much in it in order to see it. You hear me, Maury?
Yes.
They are too much in it, too much under it,
Yes.
in order to see it. They now tell themselves that they are black people.
Yes.
Is there a country there? The Chinese are still Chinese.
Yes.
There's China. Europeans are still Europeans, but they have called themselves white. That
Of
works
course.
for them.
Yes.
That works for them.
Yes.
The African identity has been absolutely distorted. And a new country has now been invented.
Yes.
Blacker. Where black people come from. Blacker.
Oh God.
It's not a color,
Yes.
but rather it is a status.
Of course. Just take this comments as we close to news time there from Sherry Ann Pasnell.
I hope people listening and learning, because of people don't listen.
Yes,
we just
Trinidad,
we
yes.
just act. So that there's a proverb that says each generation, as a matter of fact, it came from France. A quote from France that I would have learned from my time being around Dr. Winston Murray. Each generation must rise out of relative obscurity and discover its mission and fulfill it. Let me say it again. Because there's a mission to be fulfilled that is incumbent upon the Tobagonian, all of us who are in the land of the living in Tobago right now. We have a mission, we have a responsibility. Each generation, he says, must rise out of relative obscurity, discover, find out its mission, and fulfill it. And if God is real, let God be real. Scripture says that we can do all things through Jesus Christ. Forget all the atheists and the agnostics and all the follies that are going around the world, but there's no God and there's no, all nonsense. There can be no creation without Jesus. There can be no creation without God. And there can be no God without Jesus. And there is no Jesus without God. And we understand that. It takes me back to John 1. And this needs to be understood. In the beginning was the Word.
Yes.
The Word was with God. And the Word was God. That's talking about one person.
Yes.
In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by Him.
Yes.
And Word must become flesh. Word must be manifested. The invisible is responsible for the visible. The intangible is responsible for the tangible. There can be no creation. And the scripture calls it the Word. And there is nothing wrong with the Word becoming flesh, with the Word being made flesh. Because, and it had to be done as an example, because Word becomes flesh. Word, your ideas, they dwell around you. The only way you know a person is by their word. Is when a man speak out of the abundance of the heart, so speak at the mouth. It's not what goes into a man that defiles the man. It's what comes out of the man that betrays, that defiles the man. You understand? That narrative there proves the existence of the eternal God. And we need to believe it. We can do all things through Jesus Christ, who strengthens us. And that's the story.
To Sherry-Ann, she said that she came in late, so she did not get your name.
Anthony James.
All right. His name is Mr. Anthony James. All right, Sherry-Ann, personnel. So thank you all for being here today. Don't forget, every Thursday, look forward to seeing him from 5:30 to 7. We are up to news time at this time. So please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. See you guys. God bless him. First time, not that the first zero. Nah, the next one. Yeah.
One love. Ballet man looks so, but he's Rasta too. It's not how you look, but the things you do. Now, just say share your love to your brother man. Treat him kind and stretch out a helping hand. But you claim you're proud, you're kind, you're gentle. I hear you quoting words from the Bible, but now you're jumping on I back, even though I and I black, you turn natty dread. Now you're calling me bald head. Rastaman, I man, have a care. Supposing like me, you just lose your hair. Now, tell me what you gonna do for identity when your dreadlocks growing inside like me. Then we will know who dread and who faking. Without them locks and flying and shaking. With all that I have said, you would know this I man dress, so don't be misled. Stop calling me bald head. One love. Rastaman, bald man, Jaja say. with the same skin color from him above. Why this big separation between you and me? How can the hair define an identity? Is Babylon war we fighting? But I and I still separating. All the books I've read say we come from one bed. I don't mess with the dead, so why call me bald head? Rasta, Irie. I man grow long locks to prove I man dread. Now to prove I man dread, I man shave he head. What's inside I man is inside I man too. So you see, I man is no different to you.